What do you think of when you plan a trip? Obviously clothing, shoes, and toiletries, but what about coffee? It's true that my coffee habit long ago reached a point where I cannot travel without my coffee gear and brewing on my own. There are a few ways to get your coffee fix on the road. You can always hit up a local coffee shop, which I highly recommend, and you should always try to do that if it's available. You could get your coffee from a chain brewer, or you can brew your own. Now, I didn't even mention gas station coffee or fast food coffee. That's just no good. We can do something that's a lot better, a lot cheaper, and a lot better quality. Now, I have and usually do visit all three options when I'm on the road, but it's much more preferable to brew my own coffee, and in fact, it's the first cup of coffee every morning when I'm on the road.
But Garrett, how do you achieve such a feat? Whenever I go on a trip, I always have to find the nearest fast food joint and choke down whatever they're calling coffee with something salty and generally unhealthy for my body.
There isn't much you need in order to brew coffee when you're traveling. Just a few simple items: water, preferably filtered, and access to an electrical outlet. My favorite method to brew coffee on the road is the pour-over method. This method produces a nice, clean cup of coffee that's balanced and has no bitterness to it. The pour-over method is the only method that you can completely control, which is going to allow you to unlock those nuanced flavors of some of the high-quality coffee beans that you're already spending money on. If you're interested in more details about how I brew coffee and all the different techniques and methods that I use, let me know in the comments. We're always looking for new ideas for videos, and this is one that's kind of been on my mind for a while, so let's get started. The first thing we need to do is gather everything we're going to need to brew. So for me, that's my silicone electric kettle, and this actually expands for easy travel. This is my handheld coffee grinder, my pour-over cone, of course my vessel, and a filter that we're going to use, as well as our coffee beans. How cool! Even though it's going to mean less packing for me, I never bring coffee grounds. I always brew with fresh coffee beans because that's going to give me the best flavor and it's going to be the freshest taste that I can possibly get. It's a treat when I'm away to actually be able to brew this way, since when I'm at home, I'm typically using an auto drip because I'm not up and ready to go with enough time to always do a method like this. Although a proper pour over takes a lot of practice and some experience, you can experiment with this at home and kind of get something that works for you. This is how I do it on the road, knowing that there are going to be slight imperfections with how we get everything done, and that's okay. We have to be able to accept that because we're brewing a cup of coffee that is so much better than anything you can get in a chain restaurant or a fast food place or anything like that. The first step is going to be to fill my silicone electric kettle with water and turn it on. Now, this has one job: to boil water. Water's boiling point is 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which is too hot for coffee. It's going to scald the coffee grounds and give us a bad tasting cup of coffee. I'll show you how I deal with that in a little bit. I then place my coffee beans into my grinder. I've already set my grind size, and then we're just going to get to work. This grinder is a Hario grinder. It's from Japan and it's great. We found it, I think we probably found it on Amazon. I like that it's handheld, that I can take it apart. It's very travel friendly. I can adjust the grind size to whatever I want. And I like that it's completely manual. You don't have to have electricity to run it. So if I was camping or something and heating water over a fire instead of in an electric kettle, I could still use this and have great coffee no matter where I am in the world. Grinding coffee with this really gives you a great sense of accomplishment. First thing in the morning, you've done a little arm workout and you're ready to reward yourself with some coffee. Whatever you choose, make sure you use a burr mill grinder. Unlike a blade grinder that's actually going to cut your coffee beans, the burr mill grinder crushes them. It gives you a more uniform grind which is going to give you a better tasting, better balanced cup of coffee. When I'm done grinding, I prepare my coffee filter, and the way I prepare my coffee filter is by making what's called a mountain fold along the seam. Take my filter that has this nice fold, and it goes into my pour over cone, and then we wait. Now my pour over cone is a little bit bigger than my hydro flask here, but that's okay. It's going to be just fine. When your water finishes and your light's gone off, very important step, don't forget this, we're going to prep our filter with some of this water. This is going to help prevent your coffee from clogging up and stopping the brewing process, and it's also going to get rid of anything that's in this paper filter that we wouldn't necessarily want in our cup of coffee that could make our cup of coffee not as good. So after I prep the filter, I dump out the extra water that's in it because we don't need that, and then I will add my coffee grounds and we'll get to work. This is where we also talk about water temperature, where we bring it under control. So as I mentioned before, boiling is 212, and to brew a good cup of coffee, you want your water between 196 and 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So by the time I prep my filter and dump out my water and add my coffee grinds, the water's come down. I've done some testing at home and found it to be pretty consistent. Your results are going to vary based. So we're going to dump our grounds. And then we're going to use, from here we're going to use a swooping motion, a zigzag, any kind of moving motion when you're pouring your water. The important thing to watch for is what we're going to show in just a second. We're going to do our little swooping motion. And you see those bubbles and that swelling that's happening. That's what we call a coffee bloom, and that's telling me that my coffee is fresh. And I'm keeping a very even hand here, nice and steady. From here, there are a couple ways to continue brewing. The first method is to keep a steady trickle of water going the whole time. This is going to most accurately simulate your coffee pot at home. The other method, which is probably more accepted, is that we wait a little bit for the water to deplete, and then we add more water as we go. Now, some experts do have some varying opinions on whether there's a certain amount of time that you need to let the water soak through your beans, or if you just keep an eye on it. I typically just keep an eye on it. When I'm making coffee for myself, it's for function, and it's just an enjoyable process for me. So that's how I do it. Either way, just keep an eye on your water levels throughout the entire brewing process. Sometimes it's going to seem that your water level is not depleting, and what that means is that your coffee grounds are just getting compacted and it's preventing water from flowing through as efficiently. So you can usually save this by adding some more water, keeping it steady in varying areas of your surface area. The other option you have is to just use a larger grind next time, and that will solve your problems as well. So just be careful to not get too large of a grind on your coffee beans, or you're not going to get all of the flavors of your coffee, and it's just not going to taste great. It's going to be more like flavored water instead of actual coffee. So if you have some time to experiment with this before you actually have to do it for real, do that. When I first started getting into brewing coffee in different ways and exploring different techniques, I would spend any available weekend I had trying out a technique. So on Saturday and Sunday I would try a different method. Maybe on Sunday I would use a slightly larger grind on my grinder than I did on Saturday. But if you have any time to practice this before you actually take it out, and you'll find out exactly where you want it, and have a little bit of familiarity with the type of beans that you're using. Just remember that at the end of the day, or very first thing in the morning, you need to produce a cup of coffee that you're not only proud of, but you enjoy drinking. It doesn't matter what I think, it matters what you think and what tastes the best for you. This is an art form, it's so much fun, it's so enjoyable drinking your own cup of coffee. So that when you put love and care into your brewing process and how you're brewing your coffee, you're going to be rewarded every time. Take time to enjoy what you created, take notes. Next time, try something different. Just experiment and keep playing to get the best cup of coffee you can. I really hope you enjoyed our video this week as we did something a little bit different. Do you have questions? How do you like to brew coffee? What are your solutions to coffee when you're traveling or on the road? Do you have any ideas for future videos? Let me know down in the comments. Also, if you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up. It really helps us out. Hit subscribe and make sure to tap that bell icon to get notified every time we release a new video. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're gonna wait until I
Panic. But Garrett, how do you achieve such a feat? Whenever I go on a trip, I always have to find the nearest fast food joint and choke down something so unhealthy and salty for my body.
It was almost right. Salty for my body.
Hold on. Okay.
We can do something that's a lot better, a lot cheaper, and a lot better quality. Yeah. It's still hot.